The Open at Austin just wrapped up, and it found a way to frustrate every type of viewer and push everyone's buttons with fluky shots, bad holes, and boring leaders. And even a spotter couldn't really seem to be bothered. But with that, let's see if all this hate is actually warranted. Also, I'm recording this right next to my baby as he's losing his damn mind. Joys of fatherhood. So if I seem a little bit low energy or this isn't my best edit, that's why. All right, so first off, when you see a double ace by the same player, you know it's going to be a little bit intense. And we got an Alden skip ace and a Kyle throw-in when he is actively fighting for the win. You know you got something good cooking at least. So with that said, why is there so much critiquing and hate pointed at this event? Well, first up, we got to talk about the new course, Sprinkle Valley. This is a beloved Austin course that I was actually able to play last fall, and let me tell you, it's awesome. Now, having said that, I do believe next year we'll be at a totally different course called Roy G, also beloved course, but Sprinkle Valley has so many challenges that do feel a bit gimmicky, a bit fluky, and they give players rarely a fair advantage for good shots, leading to lucky shots, but not only that, a lot of holes that are very hard to grasp if you're not actually there and able to see the entire scope of the holes, which led to the general consensus of the entire rounds being a slog to get through, specifically FPO, where basically nobody was able to get anything under par. And with holes like hole 18 being an absolute round killer, looking at you, Kristin, who somehow carded plus 11 on just that hole in the first 2 rounds. Madness. I've never seen anything like that from Kristin. But the saving grace, once again, was commentators. Des Redding was amazing, who added a lot more nuance and insight than basically any other FPO commentator, which definitely made the entire viewing experience a lot more watchable. And then you have the other course, Harvey Pinnock. You've seen this course a lot, and because so much of it is dependent on the wind, you get some insanely weird results like Simon and Eagle missing the cut. Absolutely wild. But for me and so many other fans, it just doesn't capture the magic that the first 2 courses had. Harvey Pinnock does kind of feel like just another golf course. Even though there's a lot more nuance, it still just feels like the same issues as every other golf course. Now, that's definitely not to say there's not elite level holes. Looking at you 17, 18, you're amazing. But in general, it's still just not that much fun to watch. So let's break down the insane finish for MPO, and if you like content like this, be sure to subscribe. It would really help me out. So just some outliers here. Paul McBeth once again is pulling a total Calvin Heimberg and showing up when it absolutely does not matter. With an outstanding 12 under in round 3 with high winds, nobody else even getting close, with a 5-stroke gap between him and anybody else, securing a 1095 rated round with 13 birdies. Are you kidding me? Now, that's not to say that nobody did well, because in the final round, Hammis and Robinson did have their own pop-offs with 11 under and 12 under respectively, but the conditions were much more favorable. And another honorable mention was AB. I don't really know what was happening. He had a very strong look to win this entire thing, but after the first hole going out of bounds and then missing the drop zone putt, you just knew it was done. He basically could have walked off after the first shot and no one would have blamed him. It just wasn't his day. His putter looked terribly off, and I love AB. I always root for him, but I swear there was something in his putter that just looked totally scuffed today, and he had no true momentum. The real battle was Kyle and NIklas part 2. This return of the exact same people and the exact same stretch of holes as last year was something I didn't know I needed. And like I mentioned, Kyle literally had a 200-foot throw-in to lead to this moment, and honestly had a steady lead throughout the entire event. So I kind of thought the edge was going to Kyle. But I will say, when he does have a strong lead, he does not necessarily carry it very well. And that was definitely evidenced by this round. So he was leading by 5 strokes over everybody else besides AB, which, as mentioned before, he was MIA, so not really important here. I definitely want to mention Gannon was very strong throughout this entire round, but I never felt like he was really that much in it, even though he was tied, I think, on hole 13. But the real battle was NIklas and Kyle. And after the initial stretch of holes, it looked like the momentum was definitely swinging towards NIklas, who went 6 under through 7. And on the contrary, Kyle was missing a lot of putts, leading to a 4-stroke swing after 9 holes. And to make matters worse for Kyle, NIklas was dialed, more dialed than I've ever seen him. He looked like he was in complete flow state, kind of like Calvin when he's popping off. So I truly thought there was no one that was ever going to touch him. But there was a serious stroke disadvantage, and so he had to push, and push he did, with an amazing final round. And I feel like the critical throw in his round was hole 11 on his upshot. He threw it right into the OB, and it skipped right up to circle 1, leading to an eagle. And at that point, you knew he was not going to let up one bit. And so we move on to hole 16, where Kyle could have shut things down, but he failed again on his putts, leaving it all down to 17 and 18. So NIklas is up first and absolutely pipes it to C1 without any extra body movement. It was just perfect. Perfect looking throw. I know Kyle kind of has perfect form too, but he totally shanks it. It should have gone probably out of bounds, but he somehow gets through the trees and lands almost inside the basket. Would have been insane, but he does not. He is inside circle 1, and NIklas is left with like a 35 footer. He jams it, and so they move on to hole 18, tied up. So then on hole 18, NIklas throws it perfectly down the center, winner, and so Kyle knows he has to throw a good shot, and he doesn't throw a great shot. He is well behind NIklas, and so he knows he has to make a hero shot, and he goes for just a little bit too much, hitting the trees, leaving him about 150 short. So NIklas just has to throw an upshot right up to the pin, which he has done so many times with this amazing turnover, and he throws it perfectly, but he just narrowly hits a tree at the very end of his flight path, and so they both get pars and move into a playoff. And I'm absolutely getting flashbacks of last year. But because they go right back to hole 18, you know the advantage is going to be on NIklas. And again, he throws it perfectly. And again, Kyle kind of misses his shot. He's not throwing terrible, but it's still well short. And so on his upshot, he definitely makes a correction and is left with a 45 footer. So then it becomes all up to NIklas. If he can park it, he will almost certainly win this event. And then he throws it approximately 20 feet away from the basket, and you know he's not going to miss that. So it all comes down to Kyle. Can he make this putt? And he gives it a very honest run, but just not there. And so my GOAT NIklas gets a 2-time Open at Austin win. Are you serious? I could not be any happier for NIklas. He is my favorite player. I know he wants that major, but honestly, this is a great stepping stone to that major, and he's going to have so many more opportunities because he is still pretty young. And having said that, I would be pretty mad if Kyle did actually win this, because there were so many moments where, he played great. He played really, really good, but there were so many fluky shots that led up to this moment. And so if he did win, it would feel like he didn't necessarily earn it, but whatever. NIklas gets his win. So with that, let's move on to FPO. So like I said, it was ugly. There was points that were just incredibly uninteresting. I will say the final round did have its fair share of moments that were somewhat interesting. And there was some crazy stuff that happened, like Heidi dislocating or tearing her ACL. Own, while not literally tearing her ACL, but tearing it up, got a 7 under in her final round, being 9 strokes better than the winner, which is wild, despite being injured. And once again, Silva truly could have been the best player throughout this entire tournament. She had so many amazing shots, so many amazing putts. I truly feel like she is the best player, but for whatever reason, her scorecard just does not represent that, despite having the highest birdie percentage of the entire weekend. And it's clear her double bogeys are where she's losing so many strokes, with 8 more doubles than Kristin. So just clean it up and you'll be beating everybody, which obviously easier said than done. So the real battle was Holyn versus Kristin. And I seriously don't know how this was a battle, because like I said, Kristin got plus 11 on just hole 18 at Sprinkle Valley. And because this was a slot fest of a round, Holyn could not stop giving Kristin a chance, with a 64% circle 1 percentage and missing every circle 2 putt. So even though she had a commanding 8-stroke lead after 4 holes, she would then not par until hole 15. What the actual fuck? And so then strokes just kept being given up by Holyn again and again, with air balls, missed comebackers, missed lines, hitting trees, and Kristin would just play her normal game. She wouldn't even try to push that much, go for pars, a couple of good putts, but just play conservative. And so after just holes 6 through 8, she gained 6 more strokes. And then on hole 11 was when things started to feel pretty serious. With a commanding putt from both players, you knew it was going to start getting a little bit serious. And then on hole 14, despite Kristin messing up and getting a very questionable bogey, she does not actually lose any strokes, actually gains a stroke on Holyn because she misses 2 circle 1 putts, leading to a 3 putt. But then on hole 16, you'd think Kristin will clutch up, but she throws it into the hazard and misses her putt. So at that point, I was thinking, hey, it's over. There's just no way that Holyn does not win. And then on hole 18, she's left with a pretty tricky upshot, but again, she's done a lot of things like this, and she totally shanks it and probably should have gotten way more punished than she was. And so at that point, I was like, okay, she does not seem to be playing well, so I think we'll actually have some playoffs. That's actually sick. And then on Kristin's upshot, she throws it just a little bit too high and gets pinched off on some trees and is left with like a 70 footer. And so despite her being very capable of getting a birdie on this, leading to a playoff, she's forced to make a terrifying putt to just move to playoffs. Barely misses it. So no playoffs. Holyn makes her 4th Pro Tour win, leading to a very uneventful win. No one will say this is great. She finished +2 on the round, 942 rated, literally 44 points below her rating. Definitely not a great look for FPO, and kind of reiterates the bad stereotype that FPO players cannot putt. With so many putting yips this entire round, it was tough to watch. So overall, did you feel like this event was kind of forgettable despite almost getting 2 playoffs? And do you think this course was actually fun to watch? Do you think Sprinkle Valley was fun to watch? I think I will never enjoy golf courses, so for me it was a wash. And do you think courses that are so wind and tree dependent are going to be a mainstay on tour? And did you see anything wrong with the golf course? I'd love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Wild Runs signing out. Peace.